Anna remembered that morning as if it had been stitched into her soul. The sun was just rising, casting a golden glow over the small coastal town where she lived. The scent of the ocean drifted through the kitchen window as she brewed coffee, listening to the soft patter of her 3-year-old daughter's feet on the hardwood floor. Her husband, Daniel, was already dressed in his work uniform, navy blue trousers, a pressed white shirt, and the jacket he always wore when heading out to sea. He stood at the doorway, tying his shoelaces, while their daughter tried to climb onto his back for one last piggyback ride. Daniel laughed, scooped her up, and spun her around, his warm brown eyes sparkling with mischief. "Daddy has to go work on the big ship Princess," he said, planting a kiss on her forehead. "You take care of Mommy for me." Anna stood by the counter, smiling at them, though her heart carried a familiar heaviness. Every time Daniel left for a long assignment, she felt as though she were giving a part of her soul away to the ocean, praying it would return safely. She tucked that fear deep down, not wanting to worry him, and handed him his thermos of coffee. "Be safe out there," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Daniel kissed her gently on the lips. "Always. I'll call as soon as we dock." They walked to the front porch together. The early morning sky was painted in hues of orange and pink, and the faint sound of gulls echoed in the distance. A company car was waiting to take him to the harbor. Daniel hugged Anna tightly, longer than usual, she noticed, and then knelt down to hug his daughter one last time. "I'll be home before you know it," he promised. Anna waved until the car disappeared around the corner, then stood there for a few moments longer, the cool breeze brushing against her skin. Something inside her ached, a strange tug in her chest she couldn't explain. She shook it off, went inside, and began the morning routine: breakfast, dishes, laundry, and getting her daughter ready for preschool. Life, as always, had to go on. Hours later, Anna was folding laundry when the phone rang. At first, she thought it was Daniel calling to tell her he had arrived at the port safely. She rushed to the phone with a smile. "Mrs. Collins?" a stern male voice asked. "Yes." "This is from the Maritime Operations Office. There's been an incident." Anna's breath caught in her throat. "What kind of incident?" The man's tone softened, but it didn't lessen the blow. "The vessel your husband was assigned to encountered severe weather. A storm hit unexpectedly, and there was significant damage to the ship. It capsized early this morning." The world around Anna seemed to tilt. She gripped the edge of the counter, her knuckles turning white. "Is Daniel?" Her voice cracked. "He is among the crew reported missing. Rescue efforts are underway. We'll keep you informed." The call ended, leaving Anna frozen in place. The silence in the house felt deafening. Her daughter came running in, holding a toy in her small hands, asking if Daddy was home yet. Anna knelt down, hugged her tightly, and broke down sobbing. Hours turned into days. Anna barely slept, barely ate. She stayed glued to the television, waiting for any news, praying for a miracle. Rescue teams searched tirelessly, pulling a few survivors from the wreckage, but Daniel's name never appeared on the list. Every ring of the phone sent her heart racing, hoping it was him. After 2 weeks, officials came to her house. 2 men in uniform stood on her porch, hats in hand, faces grim. Anna already knew what they were going to say before they spoke. "Mrs. Collins," one of them began, "we regret to inform you that your husband, Daniel Collins, is presumed dead. The search has been officially called off." Anna collapsed onto the floor, her sobs filling the room. The men said a few more words, something about bravery, sacrifice, and duty, but she barely heard them. All she could think about was that the love of her life was gone, swallowed by the sea. The funeral was held a week later. There was no body, only a flag-draped coffin, and Daniel's photograph resting on top of it. Anna dressed in black, holding her daughter's hand tightly as they stood before the casket. The pastor spoke of faith, courage, and eternal rest, but Anna felt numb. When it was her turn to speak, she stood before the mourners, her voice shaking. "Daniel was more than just my husband. He was my best friend, my safe place, my home. He promised me he would always come back. And though he couldn't keep that promise, I know he fought to. I will love him until my last breath." Her daughter, too young to fully understand, placed a flower on the coffin and whispered, "Goodbye, Daddy." As the casket was lowered into ground, Anna felt a piece of her soul go with it. The days that followed were a blur. Casseroles from neighbors, condolences from friends, paperwork, endless tears. The house felt unbearably empty. At night, Anna would sit by the window staring at the ocean, silently begging it to give Daniel back to her. She tried to be strong for her daughter, but every sound, every smell reminded her of him. The faint trace of his cologne on his jacket, the half-read book still sitting on his nightstand, the toolbox he never finished organizing in the garage. The day everything changed had begun like any other, but by sunset, Anna's life was divided into two parts, before the phone call and after. Nothing would ever be the same again. The weeks after the funeral felt like moving through fog. Anna woke up each morning expecting to hear Daniel's deep voice calling from the kitchen, or the sound of his boots on the porch. But the house stayed quiet, eerily quiet. Some days, she found herself reaching for her phone to call him, only to remember there would never be an answer. Bills began to pile up faster than Anna could open them. Daniel had been the primary earner, and his salary had kept their small family comfortable. Now, there were mortgage payments, utility bills, and their daughter's preschool fees, all staring at her like relentless reminders of how life had changed overnight. Anna swallowed her pride and went to the local diner where she used to work before she met Daniel. The owner, Mrs. Peterson, hugged her tightly. "You can start tomorrow," she said softly. Anna worked long shifts, balancing plates and coffee pots, smiling at customers even when her heart was breaking inside. When her shift ended, she hurried home to pick up her daughter from daycare, her feet aching and her back sore. At night, after putting her little girl to bed, Anna would sit alone at the kitchen table, staring at Daniel's photograph. "I'm trying," she whispered. "I'm doing my best, but it's so hard without you." Her daughter, too young to fully grasp death, asked heartbreaking questions. "When is Daddy coming back? Did he get lost? Will he be home for my birthday?" Anna tried to answer gently, explaining that Daddy was in heaven now, watching over them. But every time she said the words, a fresh wave of grief crashed over her. Holidays were the hardest. Anna forced herself to decorate the tree for Christmas because Daniel had loved it so much. She said his favorite ornament, a little wooden lighthouse. At the very top, on his birthday, she and her daughter baked a small cake and blew out the candles together. It became a ritual. They kept Daniel alive through stories, memories, and photographs. Friends and neighbors tried to help. They brought casseroles, offered to babysit, and encouraged her to move on. Some even suggested she should consider dating again, but Anna's heart was still bound to the man she had lost. She couldn't imagine loving anyone else. As the months turned into years, Anna grew tougher. She learned how to fix leaky faucets, change car tires, and negotiate with contractors. She worked 2 jobs at one point, mornings at the diner and evenings cleaning offices just to keep food on the table. There were nights she cried herself to sleep from exhaustion, clutching Daniel's old sweatshirt for comfort. Her daughter became Anna's reason to keep going. She poured herself into raising her, making sure she never felt the emptiness that loomed in their home. Together, they planted a small garden in the backyard, something Daniel had always wanted to do. Watching the flowers bloom each spring became a symbol of hope, proof that life could grow again, even after loss. But grief wasn't linear. Some days were good, even happy, filled with laughter and play. Other days, Anna was pulled back into the darkness, triggered by the smell of sea air or the sound of a storm rolling in. On those nights, she would light a candle by the window and sit there until the wax melted down, whispering into the night as though Daniel could still hear her. 5 years passed, then 10. By then, Anna's daughter was a teenager, smart and strong, with her father's same warm eyes. She was her anchor, her purpose. Anna had become known in town as the woman who had survived tragedy but never lost her kindness. People admired her quiet strength, though they never saw how often she still cried when she was alone. There were moments when Anna thought about what her life might have been like if Daniel were still there. Family vacations, anniversaries, Sunday mornings spent drinking coffee together. She imagined him cheering at their daughter's school plays, teaching her how to ride a bike, warning boys to treat her with respect. These thoughts brought both comfort and pain, like touching an old scar. Despite everything, Anna never removed her wedding ring. It stayed on her finger as a silent vow, a promise that her love hadn't ended just because death had taken Daniel away. When well-meaning friends suggested she sell Daniel belongings or clear out his closet, Anna refused. His favorite chair still sat by the window, his jacket still hung by the door, and his toolbox remained untouched in the garage, as though he might walk through the door one day and need them again. By the 15th year, Anna had built a life of quiet resilience. She was no longer the fragile woman who had collapsed on the floor when the officers told her Daniel was gone. She was stronger now, not because the pain had vanished, but because she had learned to carry it. She had become both mother and father to her daughter, provider and protector. Still, the loneliness never truly left. Every evening, after the dishes were washed and the house fell silent, Anna would sit on the porch with a cup of tea. She would stare at the horizon, where the ocean met the sky, and whisper the same words she had spoken every year since that day. "I still miss you. I still love you. Come home to me." 15 years. It sounded like a lifetime, yet to Anne it often felt like she had just woken up from the phone call that shattered her world. Time had moved forward whether she wanted it to or not, pulling her along with it. Her daughter, Lily, was no longer the little girl who asked if Daddy would be home for her birthday. She was now a bright, beautiful young woman preparing to graduate high school. She had Daniel's warm brown eyes, the same playful smile, and his quiet determination. Every time Anna looked at her, she felt both gratitude and ache. Gratitude that a piece of Daniel lived on in Lily, and ache that he had missed every milestone. First day of school, first lost tooth, first dance recital. The house had changed over the years. The once cluttered garage was now organized, the living room redecorated with new curtains and a fresh coat of paint. But Anna had left Daniel's favorite chair in its place by the window, a quiet memorial of sorts. His old jacket still hung on the hook by the door. She couldn't bring herself to move it, even after all this time. Life had not been easy, but Anna had learned to carve moments of peace from the chaos. She no longer worked double shifts, though she still managed a steady job at the diner. With Lily now old enough to help out, they had turned their backyard garden into something beautiful. Rows of flowers, fresh herbs, and a little bench where Anna would sit in the evenings with a cup of tea. It became her sanctuary, a place where she could think, pray, and remember. But the grief had not fully gone away. It simply learned to live quietly inside her. Every year on the anniversary of Daniel's disappearance, Anna lit a single white candle and placed it on the porch window. Neighbors had noticed over the years, and some even joined her in silent remembrance, placing candles of their own. It became a small ritual for the town, honoring a man they had all known and respected. Anna never dated again, not because she couldn't, but because she didn't want to. Daniel was her first great love, and she felt that trying to replace him would be like trying to rewrite a chapter of her life that was never meant to be rewritten. When friends suggested she move on, Anna would just smile and change the subject. Moving on didn't mean forgetting, and she would never forget. Even Lily, though she had no clear memories of her father, felt connected to him. She often asked Anna to tell her stories about him, how they met, how he proposed, the funny little quirks he had. Anna would tell those stories late at night, the two of them sitting cross-legged on the couch, laughing and sometimes crying together. One evening, Lily found an old wooden box in the attic while cleaning. Inside were letters Daniel had written to Anna when they were dating, a few photos from their wedding, and a small seashell he had given her on their honeymoon, saying, "Whenever you miss me, hold this, and know I'll always come back to you." Anna held the shell in her hand that night, her tears soaking the pillow. She whispered, "You didn't come back, Daniel, but somehow I still feel you here." Years of quiet strength had shaped Anna into a different woman than the one Daniel had left behind. She was more independent, more resilient, and yet more gentle. She had learned patience, forgiveness, and the art of finding joy in small, ordinary things. She laughed again, not the hollow, forced laugh of her early widowhood, but real laughter that came from deep inside. There were moments of happiness. Lily's 16th birthday, the day she got accepted into her first-choice college, Sunday afternoons spent baking together. There were moments of pride, Watching Lily stand on stage giving a speech, seeing her mature into someone kind, brave, and full of life. Still, there were moments when grief would sneak up on her. The smell of salt air during a storm could stop her in her tracks. The sound of a ship's horn in the distance would make her heart race. Once, when a man at the market brushed past her and apologized, his voice so deep and familiar, she almost dropped everything she was holding. For a split second, she thought it was Daniel. Anna had come to accept that grief was not something you get over. It was something you carried like a scar, not as raw as the first day, but always there, reminding you of the love that was lost. And while she had found a way to live again, to laugh again, to plan for the future, she still carried that scar. As Lily's graduation approached, Anna felt both excitement and melancholy. This was supposed to be a moment for both parents. Daniel should have been there, sitting proudly in the front row, clapping the loudest. Instead, Anna would be alone. One quiet evening, a few weeks before graduation, Anna sat on the porch with her cup of tea, staring at the ocean in the distance. The sky was painted orange with the setting sun. She whispered softly, "Daniel, I wish you could see her now. You'd be so proud." And then she smiled faintly, as if imagining his reply, the way he used a nod, slow and certain, when he was pleased. It was in these quiet moments that Anna realized something important. Though she had been living without Daniel for 15 years, she had never truly been alone. His memory, his love, had guided her through every decision, every hardship, every victory. He had been there, in spirit, watching Lily grow, watching her rebuild her life piece by piece. Anna was no longer the broken-hearted young widow she once was. She had rebuilt a life for herself and her daughter, but she had never stopped loving Daniel. She never would, and she had no idea that fate was about to test that love in a way she could never have imagined. The morning that would change Anna's life forever began like any other. The sun streamed softly through the kitchen curtains as she brewed her tea, the aroma of jasmine filling the air. Lily had already left for school, her last month before graduation, and Anna planned to stop by the farmer's market to pick up fresh vegetables. It was a beautiful day. The sky was cloudless, and the breeze carried the faint tang of the ocean. Anna strolled through the busy market square, exchanging warm smiles with neighbors, pausing to chat with the baker about Lily's upcoming graduation party. For once, she felt lighthearted, even excited. She was standing at the flower stall, selecting a bunch of white lilies, when she heard it, a laugh, deep, warm, and startlingly familiar. Her hand froze midair. No, she thought immediately. It can't be. But then, out of the corner of her eye, she caught sight of a tall man across the street. He was talking to a vendor, his back turned toward her. Something about his stance, the way he leaned slightly to one side, the way he ran a hand through his hair, made her heart stop. Anna's breath came faster. Her pulse pounded in her ears. She stepped away from the stall, barely aware that the flowers had slipped from her fingers and fallen to the ground. The world around her blurred. The man turned. Anna's breath hitched. It was him. Older, yes, his hair flecked with gray, his face more lined, his frame leaner. But there was no mistaking those eyes, that jawline, that presence. Daniel. Anna's knees nearly gave out. For a long moment she just stood there, frozen, her lips parting but no sound coming out. Her vision swam with tears as she tried to make sense of what she was seeing. He was alive. The crowd seemed to melt away, the noise of the market fading to a distant hum. It was just the two of them, standing on opposite sides of the street, staring at each other. Daniel's expression shifted from confusion to shock, then to something she hadn't seen in 15 years. That same look of relief he used to have whenever he came home from a long trip. He whispered something, her name, she thought, though she couldn't hear it over the pounding of her own heart. Anna's legs moved before her brain caught up. She crossed the street quickly, almost stumbling, her tears blurring everything. "Daniel," she said, her voice breaking. He didn't speak. He just looked at her, his chest rising and falling as though he couldn't catch his breath. "Is it really you?" she whispered, reaching out as if afraid he might vanish if she touched him. And then, slowly, Daniel stepped forward. "It's me, Anna," he said softly. "It's really me." Her sob burst out uncontrollably. She closed the distance between them and threw her arms around him, clutching him as if she would never let go. Daniel wrapped his arms around her tightly, his hands trembling against her back. For a long time, neither of them spoke. They just stood there in the middle of the market, holding each other as though trying to make up for 15 lost years. People had stopped to watch, curious but respectful, sensing that something extraordinary was happening. When Anna finally pulled back, she placed her hands on either side of Daniel's face, searching it desperately, memorizing every line, every scar. "I buried an empty coffin for you," she said, her voice thick with grief and wonder. "I mourned you for 15 years. "I know," Daniel said hoarsely. "I tried to get back to you, Anna, every single day." She shook her head, tears streaming freely down her cheeks. "How? How is this possible? They told me you were dead." Daniel exhaled slowly, pain flickering in his eyes. "It's a long story. The storm, it threw me overboard. I washed ashore on a remote island. I was injured, barely alive. A fishing village found me and nursed me back to health, but I was stranded. No way to contact anyone. The nearest port was hundreds of miles away. For years, I worked with them, saved everything I could, and tried to find a way home." Anna pressed a hand to her mouth, shaking her head in disbelief. "All this time, all these years, I thought about you every day," Daniel said quietly. "About you, about Lily. The thought of you two kept me alive. I told myself that if I ever made it back, I'd find you, no matter what." Anna couldn't stop crying. She gripped his hands tightly, as though afraid he might vanish if she let go. "She's grown now, Daniel. She's 18. She's so beautiful. You'd be so proud of her." Daniel's voice broke. "I can't wait to see her." Anna wiped her tears, half laughing, half sobbing. "She won't believe it's you. I barely believe it's you." He smiled faintly, that same soft smile that used to melt her heart. "It's me, Anna. I'm home." For a long time, they simply stood there, holding each other, oblivious to the world. It was as if time had folded on itself, bringing back everything they had lost, the love, the memories, the life they once shared. Finally, Anna took his hand. "Come home," she said simply. "Come home with me." And together, they walked down the street. Two people who had been separated by an ocean and time itself, finding their way back to each other. When Anna and Daniel arrived at the little house they had once shared, it felt surreal. Daniel paused at the gate, his hand resting on the wood, staring at the home he hadn't seen in 15 years. It looked both familiar and strange, the same white picket fence, the same porch swing. But the flower beds were fuller now, and the paint on the shutters was a softer shade of blue. Anna watched him quietly, her heart swelling with a mix of grief and joy. "I kept it just the way you left it," she said softly. "I couldn't bear to change too much." Daniel turned to her, emotion glistening in his eyes. "It's beautiful, Anna. You kept it alive. You kept us alive." Inside, Daniel moved through each room slowly, like a man touching a dream he had once thought lost forever. He ran his fingers over the kitchen counter where he used to sit drinking coffee, over the dining table where they had celebrated birthdays, over the frame of their wedding photo that still hung in the hallway. Anna followed him, watching him take it all in, feeling as though she were watching a ghost rediscover the world of the living. When they reached the living room, Daniel froze. His old chair still sat by the window, exactly as he had left it. His jacket hung nearby. He turned to Anna, voice low and thick. "You kept it all?" "I couldn't let it go," she whispered. "Not the chair, not the jacket, not you. I waited, Daniel. I didn't know if you'd ever come back, but I couldn't stop waiting." Daniel crossed the room and pulled her into his arms. "I want to come home every single day. If you knew how many nights I sat on that island staring at the horizon, praying you and Lily were safe, promising myself I'd get back to you, you'd know I never gave up." They sat together as he told her the full story. The storm, the night he was thrown overboard, the days he drifted at sea clinging to a piece of wreckage, the moment he washed ashore half-conscious on a tiny island far from any shipping route. The villagers had saved him, but he had been too injured to leave for months. Over time, he became part of their community. He worked with them, fished with them, learned their language. But the thought of Anna and Lily never left him. When ships occasionally passed, he tried to signal them, but none ever stopped. It wasn't until a government aid team came to the island years later that he was finally able to send word to the mainland and begin the long process of returning home. Anna listened through tears, imagining all those lonely years he had endured. When he finished, she took his hand and kissed it. "You survived the impossible," she said. "You came back to us." Just then, they heard the sound of the front door opening. Lily was home. Anna stood, her heart hammering in her chest. "She doesn't know," she whispered. "She has no idea." Daniel's breath caught. "What do I say?" "Just be here," Anna said. Lily stepped into the living room, setting down her school bag. "Mom," she called, then froze when she saw the man standing there. Her brows furrowed. "Who's this?" Anna's throat tightened. "Lily," she said gently, "this is your father." Lily blinked, stunned, her mouth opening and closing as though trying to form words. My father? That's not possible. My father's dead." Daniel stepped forward, his voice trembling. "I'm not dead, sweetheart. I'm here. I've always loved you. I've thought about you every single day." Lily stared at him, confusion and shock warring on her face. Tears welled up in her eyes as she took in his features. The familiar eyes she saw in the mirror, the curve of his jawline, the way he stood. Something inside her recognized him. You're real," she whispered. "I'm real," Daniel said, his own tears falling now. "I missed everything. Your first steps, your first words, all the moments I should have been there for. I am so sorry, Lily." For a moment, there was silence. Then Lily ran forward and threw her arms around him. Daniel caught her, holding her as though he would never let go. The dam inside him broke, and he wept openly, feeling the weight of 15 lost years crash down all at once. Anna stood watching them, her own tears flowing freely. This was the moment she had dreamed of but never thought she would see. The three of them together again. The rest of the evening passed in a haze of emotion. They sat at the table as a family for the first time in years, sharing stories, laughing through tears, piecing together a life that had been torn apart. Lily brought out the box of keepsakes from the attic, showing Daniel the letters, the seashell, and the photos she had grown up with. "I used to stare at these," she admitted softly. "I used to wonder if he would ever come back." "I promised your mother once that I would always come home," Daniel said, taking the seashell in his hand. "It took me 15 years, but I finally kept that promise." As night fell, Anna lit a single white candle by the window, as she had done every year since the day Daniel was declared dead. But this time, it wasn't for mourning. It was a beacon of thanksgiving, for survival, for love, for the miracle that had brought them back together. Later, when Lily went to bed, Anna and Daniel sat on the porch in the quiet night air. She leaned against him, feeling the steady beat of his heart beneath her cheek. "I don't know what happens next," Anna said softly, "but I know I don't want to waste another moment." Daniel kissed the top of her head. "Neither do I. We've been given a second chance. Let's live it fully for all the years we lost." The ocean breeze whispered around them, carrying away the last remnants of grief. For the first time in 15 years, Anna felt whole again.